And we'll be back in three, two, one. We gone. Welcome back, family, to another episode of the First Sip Podcast. And I'm here this week with somebody who was sent through the First Sip family chain, right? So you guys know a couple weeks ago, I did an episode with Gio Acosta, and he was telling me, he's like, listen, man, there's this guy up there right around our area up in Northeast PA who's doing some great work, right? You got to check him out. The videography work he's doing is very cool, and I think you guys would have a great conversation. So I was like, all right, let's set it up. Let me know. You know that's what this is about, guys. So here I am, finally making the introduction. Mike, thank you for joining me.
Yo, thanks for having me, man.
No
Thank you
problem, no
so
problem.
much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I did watch the episode with Gio, and I watched
Thank you.
very briefly like some of the other episodes, man. So I'm very interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, and like I said, like this is something I really enjoy doing because it really gives me an opportunity to have my first sip, with people who I've never had conversations with. So people get to have that firsthand look and be like, okay, well, like, what does that interaction really look like? What is he really learning from these people? What do those conversations sound like? And I think it's just a cool way to not only connect with people who are listening, but to connect with new people, right? And to continue to build my network. So once again, thank you for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, yeah, it's a cool idea, man. Because like we talked for like what 3 minutes,
Yeah,
just now before, like very
yeah.
briefly, like okay, yeah, we're gonna hit
It's like
record and then count down, and
let's
then
let's
that's it.
just get
So it
into
is
it.
like a
Yeah,
real first conversation. Yeah,
yeah. And
yeah, it's cool.
so
I like it.
And I told you I was going to set you up with it because this thing that I've been thinking of lately is like, what would it be like if I was to bump into these people in a random coffee shop or if I'm going to the bar? And sometimes you walk up to the counter and it's like you might see another guy down there, right? You see a girl over there. It's like, oh, let's spark up a conversation, right? And some of that, most of the time, it's going to be like, hey, what are you sipping on?
Yeah.
And so I asked you, I was like, okay, what do you have what are you sipping on today?
Yeah. I didn't have anything, so I went up and I made a coffee. So I'm drinking a coffee right out of a old school Dunkin' Donut. It's so old school. I think I got
Nice.
this
Okay.
from when I started dating my wife. Um, New England Coffee makes a blueberry cobbler, and randomly stumbled upon it in the store one day.
Mm,
Beautiful. I got some collagen powder in there, and I have
okay.
some protein powder in there. So
Nice.
making sure
Nice.
I'm getting my grams in, my protein in while
Nice
I'm sipping
balance.
my
Okay.
coffee. Yeah.
What kind of any like flavored protein or is it just?
It's like chocolate, coconut, or something. I'm like a
Ooh,
real sweet tooth, so my protein has to be some sort of chocolate.
wow.
That's like how I get my chocolate fix.
That sounds like a good way to start the day. I got to try that out. I got to try that out.
You
So
got to make sure you have like a whisker, like one of those like automated
okay.
whisking things,
Hmm.
or else it'll clump up. So you have to mix it very well. You can't like mix it with a spoon. It'll be like
Gotcha.
drinking oatmeal, and you'll probably throw up. It's
Yeah,
pretty.
it's
I've
like
done that before, and it's
yeah,
pretty disgusting.
yeah. That doesn't sound great. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
go ahead and do that too before I try that out.
yeah,
But
yeah. Make sure you get just one of those little automated whisker freaking
gotcha.
things.
Yeah, I'm just sipping on some black coffee here. So straight
Nice.
black. I really used to go down the rabbit hole. And speaking of Dunkin', they used to have this thing on the menu. It was like one of those secret items called a Dunkin' Chino. I don't know if you heard, like it's half coffee, half hot chocolate.
No, never.
And I would get it almost every day when I was in culinary school. And I realized at a certain point, I was like, this cannot be good for my health. I was like, this thing.
Definitely not. So I had a
Yeah.
kind of going off of that. I had a
Hmm.
really bad Dunkin' Donuts addiction. We'll call it. We'll just
Hmm.
call it what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was going every single day when I was working my previous job. I would go every morning to Dunkin'. I would get a what was I getting? I was getting like a fucking large iced something frappuccino. They had like some pecan something,
Oh,
like
yeah.
all the syrup in it, all the sugar in it. I would like try to play it healthy and say like, no,
Hmm.
don't put any added sugar in it. It's already got so much sugar just in like the syrup. And then I would get a sesame bagel toasted with sausage and cheese, no egg. I
Mm,
don't know why the no egg, but something about their egg kind of like grossed me out.
yeah. Yep.
And I was spending like whatever, like $12, $13 every single morning, man. When I did the math after a few months, I was like, holy shit. Not only am I like now 200 something pounds, like very overweight, but like I was spending like $200-$300 a month on Dunkin' Donuts. It's just like, okay, we got to cut something out. This is probably a good place to start.
Just that breakfast combo. That's how they get you.
That's how
They
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 get you, man.
they know what to put into that stuff to hook you every morning.
There's something about the toasted sesame seed, though, that is just So good. The problem with Dunkin' Donuts is they don't really like to toast their shit. So you really
Mm,
have to tell them like, hey,
leave it in there.
toast it, like run it through the conveyor belt
Yeah.
twice if you have to, slow it down, whatever it is, but I want that
Yeah.
thing crispy.
Yep.
Otherwise
Yep.
it's just like warm rubber.
And then once they get it right, though, they got you for life.
They
They,
got you,
they will
man.
they will try to hook you.
Yeah.
So
It was bad because like
yeah.
I was vlogging back in that time too, and
Okay.
every once in a while I think I want to be like a vlogger, and
Yeah.
then I realized after a few weeks like I don't really want people knowing what I'm doing that
Everything
much.
you do. Yeah.
Yeah, everything I do. But I was at Dunkin'. I pull up in the drive-through, and I think I was going for like my drone pilot exam that morning. So I
Mm.
was like vlogging the whole morning, and I'm like, "Hey Sue, how you doing? Hey Ryan, hey Pete." Like I know all the people in the freaking drive-through, and like I pulled it away, and I'm like, "That's how you know I come here too much." Like I know everybody's fucking name. They don't know who the hell I am, but I know
Yeah.
all their names. Yeah, so it's kind of funny.
Oh man, so that's a good place to start because you were talking about vlogging, right? And
Yeah.
getting your drone license. So, Mike, break it down. Tell the people what it is that you do now.
Yeah, so now I do video production. I have a company, it's called Seymour Mac Productions, located in Northeast Pennsylvania in the Poconos, and service B2B clients mostly. I would say like 95 to 98% of my clientele is businesses, right? So anywhere in Pennsylvania, I really will go anywhere in the world as long as they pay for my travel. Like I always joke and say, like, hey, we could shoot this in Jamaica if you want. You're just gonna have to pay for my flight and
Pay for
lodging.
me to
But
get there. Yep.
yeah, so main clientele base though is like Northeast Pennsylvania, or let's just call it like the eastern part of Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York, Northern Virginia, kind of DC area, Connecticut. So
Hmm.
I've done projects for clients in kind of like that Northeast region. Seems to be the stomping grounds. But yeah, a lot of B2B clients, mostly construction industry clients, just kind of like where I've niched down to. Um, that is a big bulk of my clientele. It's just something that I identified a good partnership would be like these, whether they're like a low level, I don't want to say a low level, but let's just say a local like landscaper, painter, roofer,
Hmm.
all the way to like a commercial level construction management company that might be doing like hospitals and stadiums and prisons and schools and things of that nature. Um, Prisons and schools, but I'm a little redundant there.
Hmm.
But So it's been very interesting, and it's just like that has been a good partnership because first of all, there's tons of opportunity in the construction industry for what I do, but
Hmm.
also they can get a lot of value out of it, and there's different ways that we do that. So lots of different types of projects, but it's been awesome, man, and I've been in the creative space for a very long time, but I've only had my business, let's say officially since 2020, but it was more like a weekend warrior thing. And then last year, 2023 was my first full year in business. So,
Okay.
and it was fairly successful. So no looking back.
So I want to dive right into something you brought up there about like showing your clients the value that you really bring. Because
Yeah.
when you talk about when you said the construction industry, right? I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I mean, I love watching construction as I drive through the city and see those things. So anytime I like see videos and things, I'm super interested. But I guess when you said it, it didn't really strike me that they would be interested in getting that type of marketing for what it is they're doing. So how did you stumble on that idea?
Okay. So it's kind of like a multi-headed answer. So when I transitioned into doing this full time, I was kind of lost, and I have a feeling we're gonna get into that part of the story, but in the journey of trying to transition and find out what the hell I was going to be doing with myself after leaving my last career path, I got a video business coach. So they helped me kind of like figure out a lot of like systems to put in place like internally to kind of like be efficient. But then also that's kind of where I learned more about sales and then niching down, right? As a videographer, a photographer, kind of like these creative spaces, anytime anybody starts, they're always like, oh, well, I do weddings and I do real estate and I do businesses and I do birthday slideshows. And like,
Hmm.
you do everything because you're scared to take opportunity off the table. And maybe that's in a lot of other industries as well. But something that I noticed in the videography industry, just kind of knowing a lot of people who are like at the beginning of their journey, it's like you have all of this shit on the plate. Everything's on the website, everything's out there for the taking. And you think that's probably the best way to approach it, but really what I have found, and I learned that through this coaching program, was like niching down and kind of positioning yourself as the expert in what you do is a way more effective approach, and you wind up becoming way more successful. And that's actually when I
Mm.
started finding my success, is when I said, you know what, let me take all this other shit off the plate. I don't want to be a wedding videographer. If you Google, anybody who's watching this, Google right now, videographers near me, they're all wedding videographers, every single one of them, and they're probably great. It's a very saturated market, so I didn't want to be another piece in that saturated market. So I was like, okay, all these guys are doing like weddings and maybe they do businesses. So let me flip it. Let me do businesses and maybe I'll do weddings, every once in a while. Because I don't mind
Okay.
doing weddings. It's just not the money maker that I like it to be. And also it's just not really where my heart is. So um in that journey of like trying to niche down, it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to do real estate? Or are you going to do, because you can do weddings, but is that going to be your niche? Are you going to do music videos? I come from a music background. I'll tell you right now, musicians don't have money. It's like real estate agents. No offense, I know you're an agent, and musicians are typically kind of cheap, um, historically kind of cheap, and I guess it depends
Mhm.
on the market. But there's like tighter margins, right? So for
Yes.
up and coming musicians, they're just broke. I used to be one, and like you have enough money for like
Mhm.
beer, weed, and fucking cheeseburgers, and that's it.
Yeah.
For agents, it's just tight margins, right? It's like,
Mhm.
hey, I'm making this commission. If I want to invest into marketing this listing, especially, I'm taking money out of that margin, and there might not be that much to begin with. So,
Mhm.
depending on the markets, right? So, like around me, not like really, really huge markets as far as high end real estate.
Mhm.
So, I do real estate. Actually, I doing real estate photography. I did some last week, and I'm doing a bunch coming up next week. So it's not like I don't do it. It's just as far as marketing myself, outwardly marketing myself, what am I going to focus on? So to answer your question, how did I end up in the construction niche? It kind of was like a natural fit for me. I used to do a lot of construction growing up, a lot of residential, like framing houses, building decks, doing electrical, basically everything except plumbing and kind of roofing.
Mhm.
I've kind of had my hand in a little bit of everything. I look like I belong on a construction site. So when I talk to these guys on the phone, they may have this weird sense that I'm like, you say you do video. I don't know what they picture. I think they picture
Yeah.
like a guy with a coffee cup with the pinky up, a scarf, and like a beat, like some sort of hipster kind of dude.
Yeah.
So like some art, liberal arts
Mhm.
major or something like that. They might picture, but then they see me and they're like, "Oh, this guy looks like he belongs amongst my guys."
Yeah. It's my
So
people.
like it,
Like
yeah, it
yeah.
became like a really natural kind of
Yeah.
fit for me because I kind of know the landscape a little bit. I know the language, so to speak. I kind of look like I belong, and also I just identified like, hey, I really think you could get value out of what I do in what you do. So let's have that conversation, right?
Mhm.
And it's been cool, man. It's been really interesting to be a part of, like what you said, like you're driving around town, you're seeing cranes, you're seeing like all of these projects going on, and you're just kind of passing by, so you don't get like an inside scoop on like what is really going on there. I've had the opportunity now since doing this to be on site where like they're lifting like all this steel up to build a factory, or it's a like a roofer is like tearing off somebody's roof and then putting a new roof on their house, and actually being there, being on the roof, flying the drone around the property, like kind of getting like an inside view of what that situation is like and what that process is like. It's been really, really cool experience,
Mhm.
and I've met a lot of really interesting people, man. So it's
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just you like explaining it, like breaking down like those different things that you're seeing inside it. Those are the things I'm wondering, right? Like as I'm driving by, I'm like, man, I wonder what, is like going on inside there. So anytime I get to do like a walkthrough of a new project going up around the city, new apartment complex, it's always so interesting to me. And I'm sitting there recording videos too, on my iPhone. I'm like, oh, I want to get this. And I'm posting up my stories because to me, it's such an interesting thing. But, you know, I want to stay on the value for a little bit more. What are the business owners now seeing in return once they go through this process with you, right? And they're doing, putting the investment into the marketing. What does that look like for them now?
Yeah. So, I mean, it goes for any industry really, but what it ultimately comes down to is building trust in your brand, right? So like I have this line that I always say to these guys where I say, if you don't have trust, you don't have shit. And in construction, that's true. And I think that resonates with them. One, because I'm just like, that's how I say it. I don't say like,
Mhm.
if you don't have trust, you don't really have anything, sir. No, like I'm just kind of who I am with these
Yeah.
guys. Just how I'm being with you is how I
Mhm.
talk to pretty much anybody except my wife. I'm a little more careful with my wife these days. But it's brand trust, right? And awareness. So video has just become such a huge part in that. Now, the one thing I will say about the construction industry where it's been an uphill battle is if the guys, because I'm always trying to talk to the CEO, the president, the owner, right? The
Okay.
the head guy. That's who I'm trying to talk to
Mhm.
because they're the decision maker. I don't want to talk to some low level dude who has to go run it up the ladder or whatever. It's like, yo, let's get on a meeting with the guy who's going to say yes or no. And if I say it to him, he might get it a little bit better than if I say it to you, then you say it to somebody, and then it's like a game of telephone, right? By the time it gets to
Yeah.
him, they're like, why are we spending that much money on some videos? Like, can't you do the videos, Jim? Like, so it's like I always like to talk to the head guy, but it just comes down to like that trust in your brand, right? So even for you as an agent, it's like you're probably noticing a lot more now. You're not just seeing like listing videos, or even if you're seeing listing videos, what I like to try to propose um, is let's do a listing video where the agent is actually involved, right?
Mhm.
So instead of like, there's different levels to the packages, but it's like instead of just doing like a walkthrough video where I'm just floating around the house with a video camera and showing all the rooms off,
Yeah.
let's have the agent and their personality, depending on, it's agent dependent, but if the agent is like got a really cool personality, maybe they're funny, maybe they're brash, maybe whatever, it's like just lean into whoever they are and whatever they're comfortable with, and like put that personality into the listing video, because really what people are buying is like, yeah, they're buying a house, but you're not the only agent, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like they can go buy that house with any agent, right?
Anybody.
So
Yeah.
it's like they want to buy the house from somebody who they resonate with and who they trust, who they feel
Mhm.
like they could trust. And a lot of times when you use humor, or even sometimes like this brashness, like there's a guy, I think he's down in Florida, maybe I forget his name, it might be like Dan or something like that, but he's been putting out these videos recently where he's like a younger dude, but
Mhm.
he's just like cursing in his listing videos, and he's just like, "Yo, look at this fucking door. This shit is huge." And it's like cut
Yeah.
like very high paced cuts in the
Okay.
edits, and it's just very engaging. And it's
Mhm.
funny because like you're watching, and you're like, "Oh shit!" Like this is not typically what you would expect from an agent, but it's
Yeah.
like this dude obviously has a niche, and he's leaning into who he is, just
He
as.
knows he knows exactly who he's talking to.
Exactly. Yeah. He's
Yeah.
like, yo, this door is 6 feet wide. And then like the next cut is him laying on the floor in front of the door. Is like, yep, checks out. Right. So it's like very funny. It's very high
Yeah.
engagement. So it's like, what does that do? Like, because most agents, old school agents, will go like, I'm not doing that. Like, why
Mhm.
would I do that? Like, that doesn't make sense. It's just like, I guess it fits for each person, but it's like, how do you build trust in what you're doing? So whether it's construction or real estate or even like wedding videographers, there's a billion wedding videographers. It's like somebody's going to choose you because they trust you.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, you have to have a good product and have a good track record, but it's like that's almost not enough anymore. It's like a construction company goes, we're safe and we're fast
Mhm.
and we're going to do a great job.
Yeah.
We're pay attention to detail. It's like, yeah, everybody, like that's bare minimum, bro.
You
Like,
expect that now.
yeah, that's the expectation. So it's like, well, what else do you have? And it's like, well, all right, we're a construction company, but we're an all female owned construction company building like fucking skyscrapers. It's like,
Mm.
oh, that's different. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because you don't see that a lot in the industry. So it's like, that's what we call USP. It's like a unique selling proposition. It's like, what makes you different from your competition? So again, I'm very long winded, so I apologize, but
No, this is
and then I
perfect. Yeah.
start
Yeah.
seeing the web, right? Like the branches of the trees. I start seeing, and then I get very distracted. So, but like to answer the question and bring it back, it's like, how do you build trust in your brand without having to have the conversation yet without having to be in the room, like without having to take more time out of your day to go have coffee with somebody. Like you could still do that, but if you were able to put some sort of video marketing out there that lived on your website or your social media platforms, or you send them out with emails, like when you're onboarding new potential clients or doing
Hmm.
outreach, it's like you're building that trust almost passively at that point. And then by the time they actually contact you to like say, hey, like I'm interested in working with you on this project, it's like they pretty much already know you, they feel like,
Yeah,
and something resonated with them. So they're a lot closer to being ready to do a deal with you than if it was just like a cold meet, right? Like a first sip thing where it's like, hey, what do you sip? And now you're trying to get to know somebody. It's like
you got to warm
they
them up, go through all that. Yeah, it's
yeah, they're
just
already kind of warmed up. And video
yeah.
has just been a powerful way to do that.
That's you know
Did I answer your question? I don't even know if I answered
oh,
your question there.
absolutely. And I'm gonna piggyback right off of that because I love where you went there about being able to build that trust with people through video
Yeah.
because that was the thing people know I talk about all the time. I used to work in the bank, and as soon as I got into real estate, one of the first things I did was like, I'm going to start recording everything, that I have going on.
Mm.
It's, going to be, a combination of me like documenting, okay, the things that I'm learning, but also showing people how I'm helping my clients, right? So as I continue to grow in the business, I believe this, like you said, would build that trust with people who are watching me over the years and saying, oh, well, I remember when you were first getting into this from your first listing to where you are now, so once again, having that conversation about whether or not you want to work with me, it becomes a much easier conversation. And that's something I believe in through and through. I've had plenty of conversations with agents who say, oh, it's a waste of time, blah, 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 just stay on the phones, call your leads. And I'm just like, yeah, you can do that too. Because I don't see it like an either or kind of, I'm like, it's an
Hmm.
and, right? You can do both. You can make your calls and invest in the marketing so people are seeing you at scale.
Yeah.
So when you were getting into this, what were some of the things that you were doing also to like start building trust with the people you were looking to serve?
Yeah. So when I transitioned into doing this full time, essentially like at the end of 22, I had no clients, dude. I had no reason to believe that I was gonna pull this off. Like
Yeah,
my
that's why I'm asking. It's
videos were
not easy.
getting, yeah, like my
Yeah.
my skills were getting better, but I also didn't do anything for like 5 years. When my son was born in 2014, like I just was working at a pharmaceutical company, and that's what I did. Like I was like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna focus on making money here because like I'm going to be a father. Like I
Hmm.
need to get hired full time. I need to get benefits. I need to get us in a bigger place. We were like renting this little shack. And so like that's where my focus was. So for so long I didn't have anything creative that I was doing. So then like when 2020 I like made my business kind of like official, like started the LLC anyway. That's kind of like really like 2019 is when I picked the camera back up because I was just like, man, I kind of miss it. But I had to like relearn everything. Like my video
Gotcha.
sucked, dude. I was like filming like I had my camera at like every family thing. Like, oh, we're playing kickball, cool. Like I'm gonna film some shit and like see if I can make something cool out of this. And it kind of like sucked or whatever. And like if I'm just being honest, but then I was just like I started getting the bug again and I was like, you know what? I'm like, all right, let me like really lean into this. So like first of all, have a product that people like are kind of intrigued by. That's like probably number one, right? But like some of the other things that I was doing that are like more tangible as far as like external efforts that I was doing. The first couple clients that I got, and this is a tip for like any, it probably works for a lot of people, but like for videographers or photographers or something like that, what I would do is I would go to my town on Google Maps and I would like start close to my house and I would start scrolling out a little bit until I start seeing businesses pop up. And then when I saw a business pop up, it wasn't like any industry specific either. It was just like, oh, this motorcycle repair fucking shop or whatever. I'd
Hmm.
click on their Google profile. I'd go to their website. I'd see what they had going on. If they had any video or pictures or whatever, if they had like a Facebook or a LinkedIn or whatever, I'd start going on like all their social media and I'd kind of get a feel for like what they were already doing creatively. And if like I thought maybe I could bring them some sort of value, I'd shoot them an email. And then like a day or two later, I'd shoot them another email. And then eventually you got to call somebody. Like there's nothing that beats a phone call, but it is the hardest hurdle to get over when you start doing sales because most people don't like being rejected, myself included. And it's just like a very, very difficult thing to do. I commend these guys and girls who are just like, man, they're just sales warriors, man. They're
Mm-hmm.
just on the phones, calling, getting rejected left and right like that. It hurts, man. It like
Yes, it does.
demoralizes you so much because you're
Yep.
like, it's like, man, I just really just wanted you to know how much value I could bring you. And it's just like, yo, don't ever call me again. And like hang up. And I'm like, whew,
Yep.
like, damn, man, like I really feel like I can help
Mm-hmm.
these people. And so like you have to kind of get creative with it. So that's how I got my first clients as like an official business. And to this day, I still have that client. So it's pretty cool. So I started doing that. And then what are some other things that I've done? I mean, I've kind of done it all. I've done like paid advertising on like Meta.
Okay.
Like I
Mm-hmm.
luckily I'm a videographer, so I can make my own video ads. So I don't have to spend money on that, but you have to think of something creative to make. So I have like some different services and offers that I've had over the years, or over the past year I should say. And like, so I'll make an ad kind of specific to that, and I'll put a bunch of money behind that. And I've had very limited success with that, to be honest with you. And i don't I don't know why. I don't know if it's more on the creative end, like it just didn't intrigue somebody's attention enough. I've run some ads where I've gotten a shitload of leads, but the leads were maybe not as strong as I would have liked them to be. It
Mm.
may have led to like one or two like clients, closing something, but for the amount of money put into it. So like when you're putting money behind like advertising, it's just like you have to be adaptable. And I think what I do for myself, I'm like the painter whose house is like not painted, or
Mhm.
like I don't know what it is, but it's like, yeah, the painter doesn't paint his own house. He'll paint everybody
Mhm.
else's house,
Yep.
does a great job, but his fucking kitchen looks like shit. And it's just like, I don't know. Maybe I'm like falling victim to this same mindset where it's like I can make other people great videos that seem to work well for them, but then when I try to make them for myself, it's just like I don't know, like I've dropped the freaking ball. So like I know I'm
That's
not doing
interesting.
myself any favors here by saying this and like promoting myself, but it is just what it is. And I think what
Mhm.
my problem has ultimately been is like adaptability. It's like, hey, we might make you an ad that we think is going to crush it, and then we start putting some money behind that thing, and then it turns out like it doesn't crush it. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, what are you going to do? Just like keep dumping money into it, which is what I do for myself until I just get tired of spending the money,
Mhm.
or go like, hey, we need to change the first 3 seconds of this ad. Like something's not hooking people in right. So something about like the intro to this ad, the hook is not hitting right. So let's go back to the drawing board. Let's make something new for the intro, and let's put that back out there and see how that works. And the
Mhm.
powerful thing about like Meta and like social media and running ads through there is very, very easy to see, if you could like read the charts and all the shit and the
Yeah.
reports
Yep.
that they give. But they make it like all the data is there, so like you
Mhm.
could see like, oh, people started watching, and then 5 seconds in they just
They're gone.
completely, they're gone, right? So what is it, what happens at 5 seconds that they're just like, nah, not interested, right? So sometimes it's like a creative thing where it's like, hey, there's something about what we're saying in the ad itself, or the way that we shot it, maybe the edit just isn't hooking people in. Maybe we're not giving enough value to people, like they just feel like it's going to be a waste of their time, or maybe it's not reaching the right people, which is another thing. So like the ad might be great, but who it's getting in front of, the demographic might be wrong, right? It might need to go to like 40 to 60-year-old women, depending on what you're pushing, and not like 20 to 30-year-old men,
Yeah.
because they don't need under eye cream or whatever the hell
Yeah.
you're trying to push, right? So it's like, know your audience, know your client, and then like just adapt to it. So I've done a lot of that, and then just a lot of organic, so content, just a lot of content, putting content and value out there for free. Consistency is key with that. Again, take my own advice here, be more
Mhm.
consistent. And then dude, I've done like paper advertising. I've done like uh I have this one thing, it's probably still running, I don't even know, because I literally have gotten no leads from it. But like there's a company that reached out to me, they're like, hey, we do advertising at golf courses, are you interested? Like
Okay.
we'll put an ad in like the fold on like the course fucking brochure thing,
Yeah.
and then like I have like a bench somewhere like up in a Walnut Paul Pack
Okay.
golf course or
Yeah.
something. So when I'm talking to them, I'm I'm like, all right, well, who goes golfing? You know, like fucking doctors and dentists and businessmen and shit. I'm like, all right, that actually, the cost is negligible. And it's like, if I
Mm-hmm.
get one client, it's going to pay for that thing and then some. But it just hasn't worked out for me. So I don't know
Mm.
what it is about that, where it's just like, maybe you just got to do it for a while and then eventually it pays off. But I also get very impatient, which I think you have to have a lot of patience. It's
Gotcha.
like,
That's
hey,
what
I'm
yeah.
running this fucking golf course ad for a year now. I haven't gotten a single lead. Like, they just hit me up. They're like, yo, you want to renew? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, no, fuck that. Like, I haven't gotten no leads. Who's to say that I don't renew? And then in the first week of my renewal,
You get somebody,
I
yeah,
get a lead
yeah,
that lands me $20,000.
yeah. Because now
You
they've
don't
seen
know.
you, yeah, because they've seen you there now for the year, and they're like, you know what? I've seen this guy for like quite a while. Let me go ahead and reach out. But that was gonna be my next question. Like, do you feel like you've had more success with the organic content you've been making and organic marketing than the paid outreach?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the content that I've been putting out more recently, like I've been focusing a lot on Instagram, and I cross post everything to like all my platforms, but
Mm-hmm.
like it always starts on Instagram. Um I've actually gotten quite a few clients through just posting content consistently. So I have this series that I've been doing where it's called You Hired a Videographer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they all kind of start the same way, where it's like a shot of me behind the scenes. I usually, whenever I'm out on a project, I usually have one or two guys with me that are like either helping me shoot or they're just shooting behind the scenes footage for me, so that way I could put this content out, where it's
Gotcha.
like, okay, here's Mike, the guy who says he does videos. Here's him like on set with some clients. Maybe I'm miking somebody up, maybe I'm whatever I'm doing. And then it's like, here's what it looks like when you hire a videographer, and here's what the final shots look like. So then I'll take some of the shots from that actual project and I'll color grade them and I'll make them look nice, and I'll just create some engaging piece of content. And they're usually pretty short, you know, like maybe 10 to 30 seconds long, depending
Mm-hmm.
on what kind of audio I'm using, because I'll typically use like whatever trending audio from Instagram's library also, to just like try to boost engagement that way.
Yep.
But I've gotten a few clients that way this past year, where they were like, "Hey, I saw a video you did, and I really like what you're doing. Like, I love to talk." And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
cool, let's talk. So I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from it, and I've gotten a few clients, so it's been super powerful. And then when I compare those to like the paid things that I've done, other than like maybe BNI, because I'm in a local BNI chapter, which
Okay.
I know a lot of people have very mixed feelings about BNI,
Yeah.
and I do as a member. I have very mixed feelings
Mm-hmm.
about BNI. I've been in it 2 years in this chapter. There's some months where I'm just like so freaking over it. I'm like over it. I have some really great people in my chapter, and I got some shitheads in my chapter. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Some people that I would never do business with, but I have the other people in my chapter who are like freaking great, man. They're just like
Mm-hmm.
really good people. They have really good businesses, and they're good at what they do, and they provide a lot of value. And it's like, I love mingling with those people, because at the very least I'm learning how to become a better businessman
Yeah.
by being associated with them and talking to them and building relationships with them. But even in BNI, I mean, the cost is pretty negligible. It's more of a time investment than a cost investment. And I've made a shitload of money through, I don't want to say a shitload of money, but I've made a good amount of money through BNI. Like it'll cost you like 500 to $700 a year to be in a BNI chapter. And I've made way
Definitely made
more
your
than
money
that.
back. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like every time I'm like getting tired of it, I look at how much I've made in the last 12 months with them, and I'm like, eh, am I
Yeah.
willing to take that money off the table? Yeah, probably not. You know, so yeah, I stay in it. I stay in it. Um, but yeah, that's been another good one. But content is key, man. If you're not
Yeah.
doing content, I don't care what kind of business you have. If you're on social media, you need to be putting some sort of content out. You don't have to pay me to do it, but you do have to put something out. And then I think we can kind of get into the conversation of like, is anything better than nothing? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, depending on
Yeah.
what you're putting out there.
Yeah. Because I do see some attempts, and I'm like, you know what? I probably could have used a little bit more polishing. But I feel
Yeah.
like there's so many resources out there now, even for people who are just starting with like their iPhone, to go ahead and, do an hour of deep dive and say, how can I make my video a little bit better, right? How can I throw captions on there? How can I, like you said,
Yep.
color grade? How can I make sure this, pops just a little bit better? Am I recording at the highest quality? So Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm right there with you, right? Like
Yeah,
you
there's
got to be
stuff
doing
that
this. Hmm.
yeah, there's like some low level stuff that it doesn't take a lot to listen, man. If I can figure it out, anybody can figure it out. But like, even as like somebody, you're running a business, so maybe you don't want to learn how to be an editor or a videographer or whatever. Cool, then you could hire me or somebody
Yeah,
like me. But like, if you have a new phone, like a newer phone, you have a new Samsung 23 Ultra, like camera on that thing is crazy, man. I mean, you could see the moon with it. I know they kind of fake the whole moon thing, but they use a lot of AI with that. But
they are crazy
like
though.
they're freaking nuts, right?
Yeah.
Which is why I got that phone because I'm like, I used to go for like the audio quality, and now I'm like, no, I just how good is the camera? Because
Mm.
I want to be able to film something with that and put it up against like some of my professional equipment, and like it at least be good enough to like mix in, and it is. Or a new iPhone, like an iPhone 15 Max Plus Super, whatever, with the 48 cameras on the back. Like,
Yeah, that's what I got. I got the iPhone Super Duper.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
those things are freaking crazy,
Yeah.
man. Like so, and like the stabilization on them now, like they
Hmm.
make it so easy to do this that it is kind of like a detriment to my business in some ways because so many people are like, well, why would I pay you? Like you're kind of expensive. Why would I pay you? I have a new iPhone. It's like, oh, cool. No, you definitely could be using your iPhone to create content, but why haven't you?
Yeah, and
And it's
that
like,
that was gonna be my thing because you were talking about the margins for agents, right? And I know I'm very transparent about this on the podcast. Like
mm,
I'm in the very early stages of my business where we are still trying to get to a point of sustainability, right? Trying to balance things out. And there's just not expendable money to be able to invest in those other areas that I would like to, right? So I would love to have a videographer, following me around, doing the listing walkthroughs like you're talking about. Because growing up, I used to love HGTV, right? Ryan Serhant, like being able to see like all that kind of stuff. I'm like, man, that I love that. So I would love. That's my vision, right? Being able to get to that point is on the journey. But as of right now, I'm just saying, well, I can go ahead and, like you said, just pick up my camera. I can do these things, put out the videos, and just work my way there, right? Till I can eventually start investing in people like you, right, to really help it out because I just see I know agents who do it, and I see the type of return that they get from putting out that level of quality content and how much time it saves. And that's the thing I don't know if people really understand, where it's like you're not only going to make more money, but it
mm-hmm.
saves you so much time throughout the week,
Yep,
right? Like you can do a video, you can go to do your walkthroughs, get your thing, and just somebody else is taking care of that, so you can focus on what you really need to focus on, like you were talking about before, which is gaining clients,
yeah,
right, and making
exactly,
those calls, doing the sales, because
yeah,
that's what really drives our business. But I think sometimes we try to do a little bit of everything too long because we want to save a whole bunch of money and say like, okay, well, I got to keep everything close because I want to keep as everything tight. But even at my point now, I outsource certain things. So like video editing, my brother is a video editor. So thankfully, he's able to assist me with that and it saves so much time. But it's, is that something that you run into as well? When people are now wanting to take that step, and are they wanting to kind of just get you to discount all the way down to the bottom? Because that's the thing I like would never want to do to people, right? I have videographer, like one of my best friends, he's a videographer out here. So I'm like, when I work with him, I'm like, no, the price is the price. Let's make sure, I can pay you what it is that we need to do
yeah,
and stick to that because it's a lot of work you guys do. And it's just crazy to me that people would be like, oh, well, I need $100. I need you to do this, walkthrough with me, and film, edit, and do that stuff. I'm just like that.
yeah, yeah,
Like, what? That doesn't even make sense. Like, how much do you
yeah.
think the hourly rate is then? If you're. So
Yeah, yeah. Listen,
talk to me about that. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
filming your $120,000 listing with a
yeah.
$8,000 camera. So it's like I get it. You're not paying for the whole camera in one shot, but like you're paying for the quality. But the biggest thing that you're really paying for as a client is the the experience, right? The experience that I bring to the table and the time savings. That's exactly where I was going to go with this. Is the return on investment? Typically people think how much money if I spend 5 grand on a commercial or an ad with this guy, how much money am I going to make with it? All right, so I have a client, right? One of my best clients, and he's actually become a good friend of mine. He owns a roofing company, and I'll get back to like your point. But he spent about $5,000 filming a video with me, He's not afraid to dump money into advertising. So he only advertised through Meta. So he was doing like $3,000 to $4,000 a month of ads on Facebook and Instagram. And within 6 weeks, he made 75 grand in new revenue with that video. So it's like that. And if you go to my website, seymourmac.com, like it's the first thing on my page, because it's like
Yeah.
one of the very few clients that I have who are able to give me those solid metrics. And those metrics are actually pretty outdated because he's running the ad again, since season is coming back around for him, the roofing season. But I mean, it's 6 figures. It's well over 6 figures, so, the good thing about that is you pay one time, like, yeah, you have to pay to market the video, which is like a big problem for a lot of clients that I've had in the past. And it's always a conversation we have, but it's like you produce the video, and then the other piece of the puzzle is you market the video. Video
Mhm.
doesn't do you any good if it's sitting on your hard drive, or if it's sitting on a website that nobody visits, or, like, so you have to be smart about your investment. If you're going to dump a bunch of money into a video, have a bunch of money, or at least some money, to actually market that out to people who are going to be your potential clients, right? So there's a lot of power in it. But so, like, that return on investment, financial for them, but it's also time, right? It's like, dude,
Mhm.
you're running a business. All right, you're focusing on building your real estate agency, or becoming an agent, right? I don't know if you have your own agency, but you're building this thing out. How much time do you want to spend learning how to be a video editor? Probably not too much time. Now, you could probably
Nope.
do some shit. You're a younger dude, so it's probably not like completely foreign to you, but
Yeah.
like, you do have a certain amount of time you're going to have to invest into, like, if you wanted to like level up, because you could do some basic shit and it's probably going to look decent. But like you said, hey, if I want like the audio, like, what's up with the audio? It's like, well, we have to include some external audio sources, and you're going to have to edit that in. All right, well, what about this animated text and the captions? Like, a lot of these apps make it pretty easy now. Like, if you use CapCut,
Mhm.
CapCut has like really easy to use like animated captions, which is
Yep.
typically what I use to put captions on like short form content. Um, I edit in Adobe Premiere, which is like, this is so fucking stupid, but I
Gotcha.
edit
Okay.
in Adobe Premiere just because that's where my workflow is and like what I'm used to doing. And then I'll like take a final video and I'll bring it into CapCut and I'll do the captions in there, just because they make it so easy, to like have that trending kind of like
Mhm.
Instagram animated captions. Um, but like, that return on investment is like, how much time are you going to save by, all right, you invest, let's just use round numbers here. You invest $1,000 into a videographer this month, and it saved you, I don't know, 10 hours. All right, well, what is 10 hours? Like, how much money can you make in 10 hours if
Yeah.
you're focused on selling like new listings and really promoting these houses that you have? If you close one of them, you make 10 grand, whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, like, yeah, it pays off to pay this dude $1,000, so you have the extra 10 hours that month, right? So the return on investment a lot of time is time. It's just time saving. It's like, and that equals money, so time is money, so it is also a financial return on your investment. But yeah, you're right, man. It's just like, people want to try to nickel and dime, and it's like, for a long time, which is why I wasn't like really promoting a lot of real estate, is because depending on what market you're in, like, okay, if you're in Miami, you're doing multi-million dollar listings every single day.
Different price point. Yep.
Yeah, completely different price point, not just for the agent and what their commission is going to wind up being. Like, you're making whatever, I don't know. What is the typical commission for like an agent? Is it like 3% or something like that?
Yeah.
Three to
Let's say
six?
like 2.5, 3%. Yeah. Right
Okay.
around there.
So
Yep.
let's say 2.5, 3% on a fucking $1 million listing.
Mhm.
That's a pretty good payday for you.
Yep.
So it's like, for those type of agents, it's like, yeah, I'll dump 2-3 grand into professional photos. I'll have the same guy do the photos, do the video, and do short form content, which is like something that I'm trying to build out now for my real estate agent clients, where it's like,
Mhm.
listen, we could do the photos, we could do the video. If you bundle those together, I'll give you a little bit of a discount on that.
Mhm.
But also, like, include a social media package. So it comes with like a carousel post, like a seamless carousel
Yeah.
post with like all the hot, points to your listing, like all the information's there. Maybe it's like a couple short form reels also that you could post. So you're not just like putting it on the MLS, you're not just putting it on Zillow, sharing the MLS with your Facebook friends. Like, you actually have content that you're putting out there. And then that's doing two things: a different way to promote your listing and sell your listing, but then also you're building your brand as an agent, right?
Hmm.
So it like kind of kills two birds with one stone. So I'm kind of leaning a little more into building some of those type of assets out, because when you talk about like, all right, hey, my fucking margins are kind of tight, but it might make sense if I can get the most out of this. So
Yeah.
if I'm getting photos, videos, and a bunch of like reels and a post like posts that I could put on my Instagram to
Hmm.
promote this listing, I might be able to sell this listing. I might take closing from 60 days to, well, maybe not closing, but like offers from like, oh, usually it takes me 60 days to get an offer and like get something under contract, down to 30 days, 15
Yeah.
days, 7 days. The faster you can sell that thing, the better, right? So it's just
Yeah.
a matter of like putting it out in front of potential buyers is what it
Yeah.
comes down to.
I love the way you package that, because I think that's something when I first got into the industry, because that's the way my mind works. Like, I'm a very creative person. So I'm always thinking of like, okay, like how can we package this? How can we really deliver this so it looks cool in a holistic way, right? Not just like, okay, yeah, we got the pictures up there and done. Right. And it's like,
Yep.
no, let's spice it up, do a little bit more, right? You said let's do the carousels. We can do short form videos. Let's, have ourselves doing some, walkthroughs with us in there, whatever that looks like. But I don't think for people who are more on the business side, right, of the, let's say, real estate or whatever business industry they're in, right? I think if they don't think that way, they don't see the package that way.
Mm.
So you being able to present that in front of them and be like, hey, listen, this is where you can show up. You can show up here, 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 and here, and think of how much better that separates you from the competition. Like you said, than the regular people who just, you see the regular MLS pictures, you're probably going to get the email about the new listing. But what if now you're able to add a full video, right? Like a YouTube video on there showing exactly what that listing is and showing the main points. I think it really is a huge differentiator. And especially with the way things are going now, in real estate specifically, with the way things are changing, with the way like people get paid and how they can do these things, I'm really interested to see how people can really stand out. Because if it's going to be a tougher competition for business, then you're going to have to get very creative and say, what can I do to not look like everybody else who's doing the same thing?
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
that's why, like I said, people like you said, people may think, okay, they can do it with their iPhone, but I see like people like you gaining more and more, you know,
Yeah.
ability to just get in here and help people like me, because we're going to need it, especially with the way video continues to rise. And with everybody's going to start using AI and try to do all these generative things to save time. And I'm just like, if that's what people are going to lean into and they're going to do AI voice and those things, then think about the people who actually put their real voice out there. They're putting their real face out there, and they're
Hmm.
able to get that video put out on a consistent basis. That's
Yeah.
something I'm very excited about the future.
That's a good point, man. Like videographers everywhere are terrified of AI, man. Like I just did a podcast, it's like a video production podcast, and
Okay.
we were talking about it a little bit off camera. We didn't even get into it because it was so short. But AI, man, it's like, hey, how scared are you of AI? And I'm like, not really that scared of it. I mean, it's just a tool. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like if you don't at least adapt a little bit and utilize it, then yeah, maybe you do have something to be afraid about. Like even as an agent, like my brother's an agent, my younger brother's an agent, my younger sister's an agent, my mother's an agent, and my older sister's a title agent. But
Gotcha.
so they're all in real estate at
Mm.
some level, right? And my brother especially has been really good with like posting content. He's constantly putting like, it took me forever to talk him into doing. I'm like, dude, just set up your phone, get a little ring light, give value away, talk about shit that you think is just like whatever because you do it every day. But people are like looking for these, like Google most asked questions for real estate agents, seller
Yep.
agents, buyer agents, whatever. You can break it down however you want. Look at like the top 10, 20 questions that come up and make videos answering those questions. To your point is if a lot of people, like let's say agents are going to be leaning into like, well, I don't want to have to pay this videographer. I could just use AI to build out like this. I could stage my house, which there are some really cool things. And I
Yeah.
think agents and videographers and editors, photographers, like I all think like there are some really cool tools out there AI wise that like the virtual staging shit, like that shit is so freaking cool, man.
It's
Like
insane. Yeah.
to shoot an empty house and then like stage it, like what? Like
Yep.
it costs you whatever the subscription is to pay for the program, and it's just like, yeah, you
Yeah.
don't have to like bring furniture in this house. Like who the hell's doing that anyway?
Hmm.
Nobody's doing that. in my market,
Yeah.
they're all just like, yeah, I mean, it's a wood panel room. Like, why am I going to bring? I'm not bringing in a
Yep.
nice couch in here. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And I
just
got to
yeah,
move it around.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So like, there's some tools there that are like really cool, and I think people should adapt and learn how to use, and like, again, take my own advice and like maybe learn how to implement some of these things in what I'm doing. Um, but like, it's going to come back around. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know how like fashion is like
Mhm.
cyclical, right? It's like bell bottoms were cool back in like the 60s and 70s, and then they were
Yeah.
like through the 80s and 90s. They were like so stupid. And then people started wearing bell bottoms again. It's like,
Mhm.
and then like, and I don't know if they still are. I'm wearing, so it's funny because like I used to wear, I'm a hip hop guy growing up, right? So like
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
used to wear like the biggest pants, the
Yep.
3X t-shirts, like fucking
Yep.
stupid. When I'm looking back, I'm like, why was I
Why
dressing
was
like
I
that?
doing that? Yep.
And I used to laugh at people. Now back in like the 90s, I'm not going to use the terminology here on your show because I don't want to get you flagged or whatever, but like maybe a little loose with the way we would label people, and it was like
Yep.
kind of acceptable, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't like you're going to get canceled for calling
Mhm.
somebody something. But I would look at like these guys who were wearing like tight jeans and shit, and I'd be like, I'm like, what are you like? What's up?
It's
I
like
got
I'm
questions.
not doing that. I'm not
Yeah,
doing
I'm
that.
not
Yep.
doing that. Guess who's wearing tight jeans? Me. I'm 40 years old. I'm wearing tight ass jeans now. And I'm not even comfortable wearing baggy jeans anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like it's all cyclical, right? So
Mhm.
it's like AI is real hot. It's going to get crazy and people are going to lean into a lot, but then everything is going to be these fake AI
Yeah.
voiceovers, these fake, you know, like there's that TikTok voice, and I'm not going to be able to do it, but it's like a guy's voice. I thought it was like a guy, but it's just like an
Mhm.
AI freaking rendering of a voice, and it's just like it's every single TikTok video where it's just like explaining what's happening in the video, and it's just like people are going to get sick of that shit.
Yeah.
People aren't buying from a robot. Like, so if I'm looking for a house, guess what? Like that might intrigue me to look at your listing, maybe. But really, what I'm looking for is a real motherfucker that I could buy a house from that I trust. I'm not buying a house from a robot. I'm not buying a house from like a virtual assistant. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm buying
Yeah.
a house from you, and I want to know that you're not going to screw me over, that you have my
Yeah.
best interest in mind. So, like, if you're the one putting the content out for yourself, you're in the video, you're putting value out, you're giving value away for free. Even in your listing videos, you're doing like these, you know, tour videos. Like maybe they're funny, maybe they're not, maybe they're just more straightforward. But then it's like you, right? It's
Mhm.
like, oh shit, like this is the guy who was in the video, and now I'm in his office and we're signing paperwork. Like this has been the guy the whole way. Like I feel like I know this guy. Like I feel like I trust him. And I think that's what's going to wind up happening. It's like people are going to lean into AI really hard, and then they're going to go like, I don't really trust that anymore. I need some real human. And then they're going to lean back into, you know, humanity,
Yeah.
hopefully. And then that'll like save my business. But,
Mhm.
you know, like, but like, it's like, hey, just stay leaning into who you are. And I don't think you miss. I
Yeah.
think use AI as a tool and figure out ways to incorporate it to like make more efficient processes. But like again, man, people don't trust a robot, they trust you. So like, or maybe they don't trust you, like, but you're putting your content out there, so that's up to you to be a trustworthy person or not.
Mhm.
If you have something to hide behind a robot, man. But
Yep.
I would say, like, you know, you're a nice looking dude, you're a handsome guy, you seem like a very nice intelligent guy, so it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you want to be the face of your own content? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like it doesn't make sense to not want to be.
Yeah.
um so yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's the way to do it, man. Just be you.
Yeah. I think that is such a good takeaway, and I hope a lot of people listen to that. Maybe run it back a little bit because it is it it's challenging, right? Just like you were saying about making the cold calls, getting on video and starting to put yourself out there. I think for most people, it I don't want to say it maybe it exposes you, but you know, it forces you to kind of like put yourself out there in front of people, right, at scale and say, like, this is me. And I don't know if just like it's maybe that same feeling people get with like getting on the phone with some random person. You get this feeling of just like, damn, here I go. I'm really putting myself out there. I don't know what the immediate feedback is going to be, but this is who I am. And what you see sometimes with, or at least what I see with people sometimes is you start changing yourself, right? You start putting on this different tone of voice, or you start acting a different way, or you get very robotic, right, and very scripted, and you want to sound super professional. And you have to go through the cycle, right? You have to go through just the reps of doing it and getting comfortable with it, because that to me is what builds the trust with people. Even if you have to start like that, right? Start like that. Start as crazy and weird as it may seem for you, right? Get on camera, sound scripted, but then realize that once you're 20, 30 videos in, oh, you're getting a little bit more loose, right? You're getting more slack, and you're getting more comfortable about being on video. And I think that's where it becomes a no brainer for saying, like, yo, I have to continue to do this. People are really starting to trust me so much more. They're starting to like what I actually do. And I'm adding value for them as well, because I have a service or a product that they can really benefit from. Why let me continue to do this, right? And that's where you talk about cycles. That's where I see people now leaning, or and hopefully continue to lean back into doing more long form content, right? As
Hmm.
opposed to just doing the short form clips and things like that. The Like you said, oh, I got to make sure I can get this in 30 seconds. It's like, you know what? Sit down and talk to people for 5, 10 minutes, right? Like, do something that's really does build that connection. So, like you said, I think that's another area where you guys, the videographers, are going to be able to really benefit from, because I think we're going to get back to a point where people do want those real connections. They do want to talk to real people like yourself and be like, yo, I get this guy. This guy really is like how we started, right? This is my people. I want to connect with him. I want to see what's going on, just like I would watch a reality show about some other people that I have no idea, right? I know Mike. He works right in my neighborhood. Let me see what he's got going on. I know Dikembe, right? Let me see how he's helping clients, in the neighborhood. That's the thing I want people to realize. It's like you can really build your own show and add value at the same time. So why not dive into it? You know?
100%, man. I'm
Yeah.
so happy that you said that, and which is why I was like really excited to come and talk to you. I made it one of my goals for this year was to just have more conversations. And I used to have a podcast back in the day, and I've
Mm.
been like beating around the bush with starting one back up. And the more conversations like I have with guys like you, it's like the more I start realizing like this is the way to do it. Like I think everybody has like this, not everybody, but maybe some people have like this idea like, oh, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to be Joe Rogan. It's
Yeah.
like, no, beat Dikembe. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have
Yep.
to be Joe Rogan. You know what I'm saying? Like, first of all, you're not going to be Joe Rogan. Dude's got the
Yeah.
biggest platform in the freaking world.
Yep.
But also, he started in his fucking living room
He-
getting high, and his sponsor was like a fleshlight or some
Just
shit like
hanging
that.
out with the
So
boys. Yeah. That's
just
such a
hang. It
crazy
was just a
story
hang.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy, right? Now obviously he like is 1 foot into Hollywood and he has like a lot of people think like whatever he had that advantage, but like whatever, man. Like when he started, nobody's watching his shit either. So it's like, first of all, you got to put the reps in, like you said. It's like people start doing their own content, and this I hear this a lot. It's like, I was just talking to a lady in my BNI. It's actually the president of my chapter, sweet lady. She's a travel agent. So we were talking about like content and all this shit. I'm like, Dawn, there's really no reason why you shouldn't be putting content out. I'm like, there's so much information that you probably have that people would love to search for. I'm not comfortable being on camera. It's like, cool, I get that. You don't like want to see yourself on camera. That's cool. There's ways to mitigate that. Like, think about like, because she'll go to like some new resort in the Bahamas, like to like feel it out before she
Hmm.
starts telling people like, hey, there's this resort in the Bahamas you should check out, and booking their stays down there or whatever.
Gotcha.
So she's constantly traveling. I'm like, yo, if you just took your phone, like if she has a new iPhone or some shit, and you filmed a bunch of
Hmm.
stuff, like you don't even ever have to be on camera. You could just film things around the resort, put some nice music behind it, and then talk about what you're doing in the video. Like, hey, I went down to Sandals Resort in Jamaica and the grill, and here's my takeaways from our stay, right? And you can make a bunch of short form content, you
Hmm.
can make a little longer form content, whatever. But then you don't have to go, like you don't have to be on camera. Like there's so many like YouTubers and like just people who are like have really large followings who are probably making a ton of money or at least making some money, and you don't even know who the hell they are because they're never
Yeah.
on camera. They're just a voice or they're just put visuals on camera, right? So there's ways to like mitigate it, but like that kind of goes, it's like another example of how everybody can make some sort of content that can add to their business, right? And kind of like be a new lead funnel. But like, yeah, when you start out, it's weird. You don't like the way you sound. Like, I still have trouble with this shit. Like, I don't like the way I sound. I don't like the way I look or whatever. It's like, all right, get over it, because literally nobody else cares. Like, they just want to know that whatever you have to say is worth their time. And
Yeah.
hopefully it is. And if it is, then keep doing it. And then eventually, like you said, you'll get comfortable after like you putting in the reps. Like, you first start going to the gym, it sucks. Like, you're embarrassed. You can't lift nothing. Like, you barely bench press the bar.
Yep.
And like, you got these huge monsters walking around all like geared up and like
Yep.
roided out and shit. And like, they're putting up 415. And it's just like, I don't think I'm going to come back to the gym next week. I'm so embarrassed. And it's like, all right, first of all, these guys started with the bar also. Now, they might be at a different level, but they also, whether they're on gear or not, it's like they put in the reps. Like, you don't get to be some huge Hulk looking dude by just injecting yourself with steroids. Like, you
Yeah.
still actually have to put in the work, right? So
Yep.
it's like, so you just put in the reps. You put in the reps, filming yourself, putting content out, and eventually you kind of get over that hurdle of like, of uncomfortability. Um, and then just focus on the value. Like you said, like, don't like, it's weird. You like want to be robotic or put on like this weird like voiceover voice. And it's like, that could be very hard to do, because I do it a lot too in my own videos, like even now, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like I have a weird cadence when I start, like when I hit record, I have like a different cadence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like sometimes it's okay depending on what type of content it is, but other times, like if you're like just putting out value there, it's more of like a vlog or a short form, like, hey, here's what I learned type thing. Like, I want to share this information. Like, it is more valuable if you're just you and it sounds like you, it looks like
Yeah.
you, right? So yeah, I think there's a lot to that. And then there was somewhere else that I was going to go with it, but then I got lost in my own freaking web of of
Yeah.
information. But yeah, I think you just put in the reps, you get comfortable, and then eventually, oh, and then I remember consistency, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
be consistent, man. This is,
Major.
I struggle with this too, where it's like I'm super consistent for a month, and then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden you don't see me for a month, and then I'm back for a month. So you can't do that. Like, you might
Yeah.
as well put nothing out, because you're not building any trust. It's like, oh, here he is, and then he's gone, and people forget about you, and
Mm-hmm.
then here he is again. So like, put a lot of value out, put it out frequently, or at least consistently. And then I think the final thing that I want to say that you touched on was like going back into long form content, shit like this, podcasts, right? Somebody puts out a piece of 15, 20, 30-second content. If you're consistent, you can build a lot of trust in
Mm-hmm.
your brand and who you are.
Of course. Yep.
If you're like me and you're not as consistent, then it's like, how much are you really getting to know and trust me? Probably not that much. But if you're having long form conversations like this, I mean, you're there. Like, I can't fake. I might be able to fake it for 30 seconds. I'm not faking a 30-minute conversation.
No way.
I'm sorry. I just don't
No
have
way.
it in me to
Yeah.
do it. Like, this is really who I am. So like, either you're going to resonate with who I am or you're not, but at least the person watching this is going to know, like, I like this guy, or I don't like this guy's face at all.
It, yeah.
This guy's annoying. Like,
Yep. It
and you'll know, because
cuts
when
out
you
a
put
lot of the
this,
fluff. Yep.
cuts out the fluff, but you'll know, because when you put the video out, you'll be like, oh
Yeah.
shit, like, that show didn't get me nowhere, man. Like, I got no traction with this dude, Mike. So,
Yep.
um, but yeah, man,
Yeah.
it's all about like just, being who you are. And then also, like, let's flip it. Some people shouldn't put content out. Some people don't need to be out there. Like, some people are just not made to be the public face of their business or their brand. And
Very
that's
true.
just, it's just the way it is, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know, man. Maybe it's looks, maybe it's personality, maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
like that thing where somebody feels like they need to be fake all the time. Like,
Yeah.
that actually might be detrimental to your business growth and the
Mm-hmm.
trust in your brand than if you had somebody else in the business actually be the face, or even hired somebody to be the
Yeah.
face. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are situations, I think, where not everybody is made to be the face.
Yeah. I feel like that's a whole
Yeah.
nother episode just waiting to happen, just about like understanding, like
Yeah.
really knowing yourself and being like, okay,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
this
for
is,
real. I mean, if you're
this is
an
not what I'm supposed
ass,
to be doing. Yeah.
yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like you're a real jerk. I don't know. Maybe you don't be the face of your company, because
Yeah.
it's not going to get you
Right.
any.
Because there's like a thin line between like just being like real and being like a real asshole. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you cross the line there. So you know,
Yeah, it's a line I'm familiar with. And I mean, I hopefully am on the right
yeah,
side of that line these days, but
yeah,
yeah, it's like, hey, I'm just being real. It's
hmm
like, nah, you're being a real jerk. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And like, that ain't helping you sell your product.
hmm
So maybe you don't do it. Maybe you have somebody in your company be the
yeah,
person who's putting that content out there. But yeah, I think there's opportunity there for a lot of businesses. A lot of real estate agents are getting it. You know, like they're realizing like, oh, it's not just a listing video that I need to put out. It's more of like I need to put out some branding content. And then like what that I think really comes down to is like value. It's like I
hmm
need to answer questions.
yeah,
And this goes for anybody. Like think about your client from your client's perspective. What are the like top 10, 20 questions that you get asked most frequently? Answer those questions. Each one of those questions is its own little piece of content. And then figure out ways to spice that content up to make it engaging, but then like that's value. And you just give it away, give it away, give it away,
yeah,
give it away now, like the song goes. And then eventually maybe you ask, or maybe you don't ask, maybe you never sell, you know, like maybe you just keep giving shit away. But then eventually the person who's receiving that value goes like, oh, like I kind of actually need a dentist, and this dentist, I like, who am I going to call? Oh, well, I know Dr. fucking Jim, like he's always on my freaking Instagram feed, like he's local, like maybe I'll hit him up and see if he could do my root canal, like whatever. It's like there's just like people don't think about it. It's like even a dentist could be putting content out there,
hmm
and it could get you a lot of business into your business, and then it could actually become its own revenue stream. Like being a content creator can be a revenue stream, which I think is more long term and maybe not everybody's goal.
yeah,
But like if that offsets the cost of the videographer and the editor, then it's like cool. Then it costs you nothing to put that content out there, and then you're also making a shitload of more money for your actual
exactly,
business. So it's like
exactly.
two paths, parallel
Yeah,
paths. Yeah.
I love that. I love that, and that's a
Yeah, man.
perfect segue for where I end the show off with the content wreck of the week.
Okay,
All right, so we're
perfect.
talking
Yeah.
about people putting content out there, but we also like to enjoy some content that other people have put out. So, what have you been tapping into lately?
Okay, so right now I'm like huge on Andy Frisella and
Gosh,
his
okay.
content. Yeah, so I just did 75 hard. I've another attempt of 75 hard. If anybody's not familiar with it, it's a mental toughness
Oh,
program. So a
we
lot of
love
it
that
is
over
like,
here. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of it
Yep.
is fitness related, and we didn't really get to talk about it. Maybe I'll come
hmm
back on if you have me, where we can kind of talk
Yeah, that
about
would be great.
the personal growth that I've gone through, which has been a huge part in business growth, but
Yeah.
that's kind of like a separate thing. But yeah, Andy Frisella, his content, I watch his podcast all the time. He's on YouTube now, so you can watch it. It's more visual. Um, and he has a new book out, which I'm gonna order. But the 75 hard program has been awesome. I actually just failed it at day 50 because I broke my
Damn.
tailbone ice skating,
Wow.
which is
Okay.
like a whole nother story. 40
Yeah.
year old 40-year-old ice skating, probably not great. But um so I wind up failing it. But there is, I would say this as a content recommendation, if you are like me and you have struggled with discipline specifically, which I think the majority of people in this world struggle with discipline, whether it's fitness, nutrition, business, it's all related. Following somebody like Andy Frisella is going to be a huge boost to trying to figure out like how can I rein in this discipline problem. And for me, it has been nutrition mainly, and it's been fitness. I've always been like a gym, not always, but I've been a gym guy, but not
hmm
consistently. But when you don't couple that with the proper nutrition, it's kind of like a wash. You're
Yeah.
just like maintaining. And since October to now, I've lost 25 pounds. I've
Wow.
recomposed my body with the help of my good friend of mine and coach, Jorge Cabrera. You can find him on Instagram. He's been coaching me for the past few months. He's another big Andy Frisella guy and follower.
hmm
But then his Andy Frisella has a supplement company, First Form,
Yeah.
which I'm
Yeah.
I'm all into their supplements and shit like that. So I like supporting these guys because they support freedom. They support you taking like extreme ownership of
hmm
yourself and responsibility for yourself. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people need to start doing.
Yeah.
And when we talk about more like national or global, like these issues that we're facing, I think a lot of it comes down to discipline and self ownership and responsibility.
Yeah.
And if people start taking responsibility for their own shit, I think a lot of this bigger stuff starts kind of like falling into place, because you're not so worried about like what somebody else is doing. You're so focused on leveling yourself up, and those ripples will reach your network, right? Those
100%.
positive ripples. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say anything Andy Frisella right now is top of my list for
Yeah.
sure.
I love that you brought that up, because we've talked about him, 75 Hard, plenty of times on the podcast. So people know that it's definitely something, if you want to really kick yourself in the ass and get going, like that is something you need to check out. Check out the content he puts out, because he's very upfront. I remember listening to his podcast he had years ago. It was the MFCEO project.
Yep.
You remember
Yep.
that one? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I saw him like on YouTube and stuff. So I started like listening to his content on there. But these guys really do talk about like self accountability, discipline, just making the right decisions in a different way that you don't hear. I guess in a lot of like mainstream content, because it's that tough love, right? And I know like growing up, I always joke about with my dad. That's the kind of like way that we would talk about like getting stuff done, or you know what I mean, like who else do you expect to come out here and do these things that you say you want to do. So being able to like see these people and listen to this content, I feel like it's like a good reminder. Especially the older I get, I'm like, yo, stop getting comfortable, right? Like don't fall into this mindset of like, oh, like woe is me, all this stuff is happening around me and I can't do anything about it. It's like, nope, a lot of these things that you're probably worrying about, you can probably go out there and do something to change, even if it's a little bit in your own life. Like you got to start with that. And
100%.
that is why, I always love anytime somebody recommends that kind of stuff. So yeah, thanks
It's
for sharing that. Yeah,
unapologetic, and it's what
100.
we
Yeah.
need.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you got to take care of yourself first, man. It's like the plane is going down. They don't tell you to put the freaking face mask on the person next to you. No, put
Mm-hmm.
your face mask on and then put it
Yeah.
on your kid or your wife. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can't help yourself, then how the hell are you going to help anybody else around you? And this is something, and like I won't go too long on this because I know like that was the end of the podcast. But
Mm-hmm.
there is a realization that I had transitioning into being an entrepreneur, running my own business. I used to live a completely different lifestyle when I was punching a clock, even in the pharmaceutical industry, um, that most of them would find very unacceptable. But I was in this weird comfort zone. When I became my own business owner, I realized like I got to change shit. But
Mm-hmm.
then another realization happened where my son just turned 10 yesterday. And I'm like, what example am I showing him? I'm 215 pounds. He literally, like a few months ago, came up to me, grabbed my stomach, and said, "You got the chunky stuff." And like I laughed, he laughed, and then I kind of like went in my room and cried a little bit because I was like, "Yo, he's looking at me like I'm soft and like I'm not a good example. Like, what example am I leading for him?" So now that I've been on this journey and I have recomposed my body, like I actually have abs now, which is kind of fucking crazy at
Mm-hmm.
40 years old. But now he comes up to me and he's like, "Dad, like." You don't have the chunky stuff no more. Like
Mm-hmm.
you got muscles now where you didn't. So it's like this thing where I do it for yourself first and foremost, but it will have those positive ripples, like I said, will start reaching the people that you care about. And when it does, you're going to start changing their life, because people are faced with a decision, right? When you surround yourself with people who are making excuses, pointing the finger, sitting on a couch, not taking action, you become that same person. When you surround yourself with successful people, business owners, maybe people who got money, maybe people who own a bunch of real estate, and like,
Yeah.
then you start getting intrigued by that. You are I forget what the saying is, but it's like you are a sum of
The five
the
people
like
you hang around
the
with.
five
Yeah.
people you hang around with, right? So like when I used to hang around, like when I was chasing a music dream, not everybody I hung out with were losers. I still have a couple friends from those days that are very good friends of mine.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was hanging around with a lot of people who were living in a false reality. But guess what? So was I. And it was like when I cut some of those people out of my life, for better or for worse, like in the time when it happened, looking back, I'm like, oh shit, that like there's a dead weight aspect to it, where it's like these people weren't adding any value to my life. I'm not looking like Dikembe, I'm not trying to become friends with you so I could suck something out of your
Yeah.
like financial situation, like whatever it is. But it's like, I see you as somebody who has a base of knowledge that I don't have. And I'd like to tap into that. So it's like, you surround yourself with people who could add value to your life. You know what I'm saying? Not,
Mm-hmm.
you're not looking to take shit from people, but you're looking to gain value and then give value. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully it becomes a relationship like that, where it's like, oh shit, Mike taught me something, Dikembe taught me something. Like, this is a valuable relationship to maintain. um but like, you have to become the influence. Nobody's coming to save you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you have to save yourself. You have to be that person. And what you're going to find is, most likely, you become the person who saves somebody else, whether you wanted to or not, meant to or not. You will have a positive effect on somebody to the level where they go, oh shit, maybe I need to start taking some action.
Yeah.
And that's the ripple effect. So I think more people need to have that mindset. And I'm not perfect, but I'm on the journey with you. So if you're on the journey, I'm on the journey. We just start taking those steps together.
Yep. I think that is what it's about, right? And that's the whole name of the podcast, right? Taking that first sip, because I feel like
Yep.
that's where a lot of progress starts. You got to be able to like be like, I don't know if I want to try that. Just take your first sip, try it out, see how it goes. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and that's I'm such a big believer in that, and it's it really is so profound. Like when you do really start, like when you start diving into it, and just really I have this, I don't know if it's like a mantra or like mission thing, statement I've been like running through my head like past couple of months, but it's basically becoming the leader that you're looking for. So instead of just always saying like, oh well, I'm just gonna wait, like you said, waiting for somebody to come and help me out with this or teach me this, just become that person. You know what some of those values are, some of those standards, some of those principles you're looking for. Start living up to that lifestyle day by day, and you'll soon become that person. And then you'll attract those type of people as well. I'm a big believer in that. It's like you were saying, like your environment will start being shaped by that kind of person that you're becoming. And when you start realizing that and you just start seeing how things switch up, it is crazy to me. Right. And that is why I talk about it ad nauseum with people. I'm just like, listen, man, you got to try this out. You got to try this out. Just give it a chance. Just give it a chance. Right. Because you never really know. And when you do, and you see them come back and like, oh, man, I love that. You know how many of my friends have gone through 75 hard now? We have a group chat with probably like 15 of the guys that we all went to PV together. We still talk to this day. And I want to say probably 80% of the group, if not everybody, has gone through 75 hard multiple times now. And every time we go through, we're like, man, that's some good stuff. That's some good stuff, So
Yeah.
it's great to be a part of a group like that. But
It's crazy, man.
yeah,
I love that, what you said though. It's like,
yeah,
be the leader. First of all,
yeah.
be the leader you're expecting to just show up and save you. Yeah,
Hmm.
just be that guy.
That's it.
Be
Be
that
the
girl. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? Like, be that person, and save yourself. There's
yeah.
nobody else is gonna save
That's
you,
it.
man.
That's it. And I'm gonna
Nobody.
send it home with my content rec talking about a savior. So I don't know if you're into these kind of shows, but I love the animated show Avatar: The Last Airbender,
Hmm.
and they just came out with the live action one. Now this is one that people have been waiting on for years. People like me, big fans of the show. So they came out with the live action, and man, did it checked off all my expectations. I love the
Is this the
show.
one that's on Netflix now,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay? Yeah, I
Now
haven't checked it out yet.
some of the acting could have definitely been better. Some of the actors you could tell was probably like their first opportunity to get into the show.
Yeah.
But as far as like fighting style, like character development, like all that other stuff, I feel like they did a good job to piece it together and do their version of the story, because it's not an exact adaptation from the animated show. But I think they did a really good job moving this into like a live action state, right, with like real people and still staying true to the show. So
Yeah.
anybody who's interested, in Avatar and you haven't checked out the show yet, I think you'll like that. Some good lighthearted content, to watch and just kind of enjoy. 8 episodes, so it's really quick. You can fly through it. But yeah,
I
and that
think if
show,
you're at
yeah,
my
mhm,
nerd level, which is
yeah,
probably way lower than yours on the
okay,
Avatar
yeah,
scale, it's probably freaking great. But you're
yeah,
like, well, it didn't really exactly line up with the
yep,
original story.
yep.
It's like,
I'm
for
telling
me,
you,
I'd be
that's
like, this
yeah,
is amazing. Oh my god, you're like,
yeah.
that one guy, he didn't wear an orange
He
shirt.
didn't.
I don't like
That
that
that's
shit.
me. That's me.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
It's like,
That's
all
what I'm
right.
like. I see what you guys are going for there, but it's like, okay, like we can tweak that. Call me next time for the next season. Like I
Yeah.
got you. I got you guys with
Yeah.
some
That's
recommendations.
some
But
Star Wars level shit. You know what I'm
oh,
saying? It's like,
yep,
I don't like these little spin-offs, man. It's not staying
yeah.
true to the original story. It's like, yeah.
Do you have anything like that you nerd out on?
I am a big Star Wars guy, and I love them
Nice.
all,
Okay.
so I don't really give a shit. Like, I'm an
Yeah.
original Star Wars guy, like the
Gotcha.
freaking
Yeah.
before they had the animation. I'm
Yeah.
actually really pissed. Like, if you look at the first three or whatever, um, when they redid some of the animation or like the graphics for, of course, I'm gonna forget this fucking guy's name. Who's the big fucking fat blob dude?
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
I don't know why I have King Tut in my head. It's obviously not King
No,
Tut.
I know who you're talking about though. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll pull him up and throw him on a clip or something.
yeah.
But yeah.
Put him up, throw him on a clip so I
Yeah.
don't look
Yeah.
completely stupid. But when they redid the animation, I love the original like animatronics for that, where they had like 7 people in the freaking thing. Like one guy is moving a tail. One, I
Gotcha.
love
Yeah.
the original one where it's like that shit was so cool. When they redid it and it was more like computer animated,
Mm-hmm.
man, the first time I saw it, I was like, I was so excited to show my son. And then that came on and it was like, okay, but like, I was like, what the hell is this? I'm like, when did they put like a computer version of I'm never gonna
What his name is? Yeah.
I'm thinking Yoda, I'm thinking King
Yeah.
Koo, I'm thinking everything except
I got Yoda right behind me here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking of everything except what the guy's actual name is,
Mm-hmm.
but he's the one who freezes Han Solo
Yeah.
in the freaking in the wall of fucking metal or whatever. So
I love that.
no, but I love Star Wars. And then the only other thing that I kind of nerd out on, which is not movie related, is like MMA, like UFC. I'm like a
Gotcha. Okay.
huge UFC fan.
Yeah.
I'm not a fighter. I'm more of a lover,
Yeah.
persuader than a fighter. I don't like getting punched in the face. But I love these guys, like the fact that they're the stories, like I came from none, I was in a trailer park out in
Yep.
London, and like whatever, and it's like, and then they come up and they become like these crazy superstars that are just like
Insane.
overcoming all odds. I freaking love that shit because they, as a guy too, it's just like
Yeah.
there's something about the
It's that true like
gladiator.
underdog story. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just like I love that shit, but like that's the only thing I do. Like I don't watch football anymore. I don't watch any sports. I don't watch any sports except fighting. And then
Mm.
like for a while, politics became my sport. I
Yeah.
gave up football for politics for
Yeah.
a while, but
I went down that rabbit hole.
that shit will
Definitely.
rot your freaking brain, dude.
Definitely went down that
It'll
rabbit hole.
it's too much. It's just too
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
that you can't even control. So it's just like, I used to think like people rooting for football teams were stupid until I saw myself in America rooting for
Right.
like a political team, and I'm like, they're the same. They're
It's
all
like you're
the
doing
same.
exactly
So
the same thing.
yeah, they're all doing
Yeah.
the same thing. I'm doing the
Oh,
same thing,
man.
and these teams are the same. So,
Yeah.
so then I'm still very much into politics. Like I pay attention and shit like that. I just don't
Mhm.
get so emotional about it anymore.
Yeah.
And
Same.
then, but like, yeah, UFC, man, I
Yeah.
freaking love UFC.
I love that.
I love seeing guys who could fight
Yeah.
on my behalf.
Right. It's
'Cause
like I'll let you guys
sometimes-
handle it.
Yeah,
I'll let
there's
you
some
guys-
killers
yeah.
out there, man. Some
Yeah.
nerds and shit that are really
yeah.
into like the Last Airbender.
Exactly. You don't want
Freaking,
to challenge people. You don't know what they can do.
You
really don't know what
wanna
people can
challenge
do.
nobody. Look
So-
for the ears. They got the little fucked up ear.
Oh yeah. You see that
Just
cauliflower?
walk away,
you're,
guy.
You're good. Just you're good. You're
Guy,
good.
you're not that guy, buddy. You're not
Nope.
that guy, and
You
that's
will
me.
get,
So
you
I
will
just
get
walk
humbled
away.
quickly. Yep. I'm
Yeah,
right there with you.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't
Right
need to be
there
on the
with you.
floor in a parking lot of Target getting yoked
Nope.
up, like just fucking all choked out by some little nerd.
Nope.
So I just mind my business and I go home.
That's it. I love it. I love it. Well, Mike, this has been great, man. This has been one of the one of the best like conversations I've had in a long time. And it is there, like you go through some like all the conversations I have with a lot of guests, I love them, but there are some that I get to really dive into and really connect with the people, and just the conversation goes in ways that, I didn't expect. And I think this is really one of them. So I just want to thank you again, for taking the time to do this, to join me on the podcast. And I really think people will enjoy it as well. This was a
I hope
very,
so.
very relatable conversation.
Yeah. I love you, man. Like
Yeah.
I love this conversation. This was great,
course.
man. This was awesome. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
shit, we're gonna talk about like real estate and stuff. Cool.
Yeah.
But
this was
no,
good.
man, awesome, and I appreciate your time. I know we kind of like probably ran it a little long here, but dude,
We're
like
good.
if you ever want me to come back on, man, like you let me
Yeah.
know. I'm here.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say,
there's
yeah,
so
like,
much that I feel
mhm.
like we could.
if
we
we
could just
can, if
venture
we can get
into.
something lined up again, closer to the summer, that would be great. So
Yeah,
I'll shoot you,
yeah.
a message right after this, so we can get that set. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll
Well,
try to
maybe
pick a
see
date.
like
Yeah.
feel out
Yeah.
your viewers, you know, like maybe your viewers are like, don't have this guy back on.
Let's
You know what
not.
I'm saying?
You know what you talked about there at the end? Yeah, never mind.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Listen,
let's not bring him back.
run the chat, run a poll in a chat, and just be like, "Hey, have him on, don't have him back on, whatever." You know,
Let me
you're
know
not
how
gonna hurt
you
my
guys
feelings.
feel. Let me know how
Yeah.
you guys feel.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah. But I think we'll definitely be having you back, Mike. So thank you
All
again.
right, cool, man.
And as I always send it home, guys, stay tuned, stay curious, and as always, enjoy your first sip. Mike, this was fantastic. Thank you again.
Awesome, man.